loving yourself is an amazing piece to that management of that fight or flight response. That
You gotta throw your thoughts away
yeah. Ooh.
because I guarantee you, the same thoughts you're having right now is not going to be the same thoughts in 5 minutes.
What's up, peoples? It's your bartenders, Mr. Z.
And your boy Omega.
Carmichael Simon is back as we get a refresher on some old topics and dive deeper into others, mainly fight or flight. We talk about how to recognize it, what to expect, and some deep cleaning tools. As every episode, we want to thank all of you for listening. We truly appreciate you listening to our hearts and minds on varied and difficult topics.
Special thank you goes out to our Patreon subscribers for their support of the show. Every little bit helps us reach our goals to invite more high-profile guests and create bonus content.
And if you want to join in our conversation outside of this cast, feel free to hit us up on Twitter or Instagram at HaveADrinkCast, and make sure to use that hashtag HADcast.
Remember, this is always a conversation. If you don't agree, you want to voice your opinions, or even suggest a topic for an episode, feel free to join our Discord as well. The link will be in the description.
And please, if you like what we're doing here, share us with your friends, your family, your neighbors. Heck, swing from rooftop to rooftop like your favorite neighborhood copyright man and tell everyone about our podcast. Your referrals mean a lot to us, as that's how we gain more listeners. So,
Thank you again.
and get prepared to sit
Think.
and have a drink.
Welcome to Have a Drink Podcast. Enjoy the episode.
We said peace. What's up, peoples, and welcome back to another episode of the Have a Drink Podcast, where we invite you to sit, think, and have a drink. We're your bartenders, Mr. Z.
And I'm your boy Omega.
And today's episode is brought to you by
The letter F.
the letter F for fight or flight. No, today's episode we're gonna talk about fight or flight response. And the reason why I wanted us to dive into this a little bit more is just with a lot of research that I've been doing surrounding like habits or habit forming or habit breaking, etc. Um, or even just developing discipline in general, I came across this article that was talking about, what roadblocks might be in your way when it comes to um, trying to form habits or break bad habits or, develop a new discipline. And one of the things they talked about was like at the forefront of the information was, your fight or flight response. A lot of times people feel overwhelmed with anxiety during different moments in their life. Say they're confronted with public speaking or just confrontation in general. You have this signal that goes off inside of your body. It's survival instinct, and it's fight or flight response. And that whole, the activation of that inside of you floods your body with adrenaline and like immediately makes you cold. I personally I've experienced chills, just it like all of a sudden the temperature drops around my skin and it gets super cold. um and it's one of the roadblocks that I have, especially when it comes to things like, for those of you who follow me on social media, like posting consistently or doing routine daily exercise, traditional exercise, meaning like, having a workout routine of like I'm gonna do squats and lifts and jumps and runs and stuff like that. So um but yeah, I wanted us to talk about it just because, like, I know in the beginning of our show, the creation of the show, one of our episodes, we had actually talked about, finding your purpose, um, getting out of your own way, all of that. And like, I mean, that essentially pertains to what the core of it is, like learning that fight or flight response and why it's coming up, the core of why it's there, and kind of working through it. You can say to someone, all you need to do is just get out your own way and you'll be fine. And it's easier said than done, but that's because you're combating whatever is triggering this response in you. You're combating the anxiety, you're combating the fear, you're combating whatever it is that's holding you in that place of experience and keeping you from moving forward, crossing that threshold, posting that video. um Yeah, I know you and I talked a little bit today about it, just because, like, I mean, in the preparation, I guess, of today's episode, I really, you know, felt like I should start diving into that kind of work and discovering where my fight or flight response is kicking in, and then why, and then finally, I guess, hopefully at the end of this episode, how to work through that. Oh, and actually, as like a special treat from last week's episode, we have our brother hopping on again, Kid Carmichael. Hey, and sitting down at the bar
Welcome to the
again.
conversation, sir.
Yeah. How are you fellas doing?
Doing good. Just kind of
Good,
catching.
we're good. Why don't you go ahead and reintroduce the topic again and the setup for
Oh,
Carmichael?
yeah, absolutely. That's kind of what.
I would say society-wise, we get programmed based on fear. A lot of it's fear and fear of seeing what you're going to end up doing if that's fight or flight. But there's also a third element to that, which is freeze. So sometimes, you don't have to react to it. And it depends, right? Because you might get stuck and unfortunately you cannot fight or you cannot take flight and move on. You're just kind of stuck in your tracks. And at that point, it's not, you have to realize what's happening in your body, that sometimes you just are forced to sit still or forced to not take action because your character doesn't have the ability to manage those consequences. It's like it already is predetermined, already knows. Typically, when you fight or you flight, you've already taken that action, you've already experienced it, and you want to see it through, or you can go a little bit further and push it. But if it gets a little bit too far, you got to pull back, and that's anything in life. You know what I'm saying? Positive, negative, indifferent, good, bad, ugly. I think people take. I think the thing that people get stuck with is analysis paralysis, when they get too stuck in their mind for too long and they're not proceeding forward with the intention of what they're supposed to be doing, which is always taking action and having free will. But I love the topic. Absolutely.
100%, 100%. Go ahead, oh.
That was amazing. And it's very interesting because I look at it from the point of fighting or action or like in a protection mindset like that, and that's the aspect that I take it from and I look at it. For instance, like when I go to a nightclub with my friends or with my wife or anybody, first thing I'm doing is I'm looking for exits just in case I have to take flight. That's immediate. As I look for exits, I immediately look for that. I scan and I look at the room and I kind of assess who's here, where is people, how are people, how is the liquor sales going. And I know they're like, well, what do you mean how's the liquor sale? If the bar is full and people are acting stupid by the bar, I'm like, okay, so this could potentially be a fight night or a bad night, or people, what's the vibe in there, so like that's my mindset, because I have to be aware. I have to do a threat analysis that fast to keep myself and anybody else safe, And the reason why I know that this is so automatic for me and I don't realize it is because it's my boys who are the ones that pointed that out to me. They were like, yo, if we ever see you stop dancing and you look very hyper focused, we know something's not right, so we'll figure it out. We'll chill. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize that. They're like, yeah, man, because you stop and you just kind of chill back and you look around, you kind of throw your arms out a little bit, kick your legs out a little bit, like somebody's gonna get beat up. I'm like, oh, no, but okay. So that's where my fight or flight comes in. And then when you said the freeze part, it's like, yeah, people freeze up when action happens or something happens and they don't know how to react to it. They just freeze.
Yeah. And I would even say, in a fight perspective, right, is
Mm-hmm.
sometimes a fighter will freeze, but the other fighter will overcommit and they're wide open.
Mm-hmm.
And after they unfreeze and they follow through,
Yeah.
the person who actually froze ends up winning the match because the other one overcommitted.
Yeah. Yeah.
'Cause they
Or
wanted
it's like,
yeah.
or they're watching or they're admiring their work, so to speak. Like that's what we say. Like if you get a clean shot and then you're sitting there and you're looking, you're admiring your work, and then you get caught too. It's like, some people be like, oh, he froze. No, on our aspect, it's stop admiring your work and get to work, get back to work.
Absolutely. That's one thing it would be interesting when we go into board meetings, hopefully in the near future, within the next 5 or 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
whatever production looks like here is that's one thing with Anthony is he wears it on his face. Like you're gonna know, like you could ask the question, anybody can sit back and pitch to him, but if you look at him, you'll know, you
Oh,
know.
100, absolutely.
I don't even know if that's a good thing or a bad thing right now. That's why I don't play poker. Yeah. But I mean, so let's unpack some of these things. Now, when we're talking about fight or flight in regards to our emotions or thought process and move, and not in a physical form necessarily, but as in what we want to do in life. So do you guys find that happens to you at times where you're either like, I'm ready to go get it, I'm gonna go after it, I can handle this, or it's more like, this seems too much, I'm just gonna back up, or at times that you're frozen because you're too busy analyzing it to where you're just like, I can't figure out whether to leave, or do I stay or do I go now because I overanalyzed it. Where are you guys at in that regard?
I mean, I would just say at high level log line here is feeling comfortable in the uncomfortable. Because you never know what action you're going to take when you're put into a situation. Um, with that is preparation, like putting yourself into enough situations that you can manage. I'm saying manage, not control, but manage your own inner voice, your inner soul. Because it's like the bay, right? You can run the bay really quick. You can be in the city, you can go to Oakland, you can go to Palo Alto, or you can go down to Silicon Valley. That's 4 different personalities right there. And if you ever wanted to experience what life is really like, put yourself in those places, and you'll learn a lot about people without even having to do anything. You could just literally people watch, very similar to going into the airport, and see how just people move and emulate that,
So
to the point that it feels uncomfortable to you. You kind of have to you got to weave your way through the crowd at times. You got to vibe that crowd too. And I mean crowd, just I'm saying the city. Got to be in the city. All 4 of the cities.
absolutely. I mean, people watching is one of my favorite activities. Just because, I mean, part of being an observer, as per our last conversation, it's fun to just kind of learn how people tick.
Yes.
Actually, it's interesting because it kind of touches upon something that I had to experience. So I've experienced what Omega, like a combination of those, at different times. Like, with different things, it's I'm all for it, I'm going, like, I'm fighting for it, let's do this, like, let's get down to business, like, I'm about to go defeat the Huns, let's do this, like, and then there are other things that are rooted in the narrative, the fear, the whatever it is that is triggering that freeze response or that flight response. I mean, just I mean, like I said, in preparation for this episode, kind of like really trying to understand certain things because I want to work through them. I mean, no better way to work through something than to like gotta stir it up, get it all up and ready to the
Absolutely.
surface. But of like, you know, it's the same thing that I was having before about like, you know, posting things online, or, you know, trying to find some consistency in that, or I mean, I can just I want to dive a little bit deeper onto the posting things online, because it's like that was one of the core things in one of the first episodes that I talked about, that specifically, you know, of hitting this wall of like, once I hit that wall of that either freeze response or flight response, you know, it's whatever narrative that I'm hearing inside of my head is going like either not good enough, you know, it won't be good enough, you know, it's like that voice, that doubt that's like weighing it all down, you know, and it attaches itself to that fear underneath it. Like, where does that come
Yes.
from? You know, I spent a good part of the day after Omega and I had a little chat earlier today of like trying to break down the different places, and it can get a little
Mhm.
overwhelming. And you know, and because like being in that space of freeze or even flight, you know, it's just as strong as that fight response of like, no, I want to go get, I'm going for this is it, like just as much drive and determination as I have for that. Like, I I've tried to figure out a way to try to remove all sources of like excuses,
Yes.
and just to see like, if I removed, personally, if I removed all excuses from this particular situation, will I still react the same?
Mm.
And in doing that, I was like, yeah, I still react the same. Cause I mean, the deeper dive that I was saying was like me looking at today. I was saying something about like my TikTok. I have a TikTok for a character that I do. It's called Dadpool.
Okay.
If you've ever seen Bat Dad, where the guy who wears the Batman mask walks around and is like,
Okay.
"Hey, what are you doing?"
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, I have a Deadpool mask, and I have like a Deadpool button-up dad shirt,
Okay.
and like it's like all the whole nine. And
Yeah.
so like I just put on my Deadpool mask, I walk around and I'll do stuff either with the kids or, you know,
Yeah.
by myself or what have you. But like finding consistency in posting, consistency in content creation, and like at the same time while trying to give quality.
Yeah.
Um, you know, with that particular thing, like I was like, all right, well, you know what, if I just had like a good premise to go off of, I'll be able to create something, you know, consistently from that. I had
Yes.
somebody help me out, write a script for me. Still haven't recorded that shit.
Mm.
And it's like, why? And I know why. It's because I looked at it and I didn't even print it out. Like I was like, I I had that immediate fear of like, if I record this, nobody's gonna see it. And whoever does, they're not gonna like it.
Okay. Yeah. I get it.
So that caused me to freeze.
Yes.
And I was just like, nope. And I get overwhelmed. And I find that that's the common thing that I keep hidden when it
Yeah.
comes to like, you know, my content creation. I'm like,
And I think the one thing is you have a goal, right? And your goal is actually larger than your fear, and everything, you got to do things in increments. I mean, I understand you have a full goal, but the goal is only a target to get to. The goal actually doesn't really, you don't actually ever achieve the goal, because when you get closer, you actually extend the goal further.
right. You
It
reset
means
it to
everything
another.
becomes very incremental.
Mm,
And what I would say is, there is that part of making sure you follow through, and that's the part, like, even if it doesn't feel right, I would say very similar to like my mother would tell me is like, make sure you do all the things that other people don't want to do. Because eventually in life, you're going to be doing those things as well. And people are going to respect you for that. It's sort of like as they would say, shake. It's no different than shaking the main janitor's hand when you're walking into a building versus shaking the CEO's hand, right? They both have gotten to their levels for a specific reason. Just because it's socio-economic and people put labels against other people, they both have their purpose, and you have your purpose as well. So it's, you just have to really just follow through and build and create and continue to reiterate. And that is the safest approach. So it's like, going through choreography, you will never have the perfect piece of choreography, but if you did the same choreography for an entire show, it'd get pretty dope by the time you guys are done with it, because you guys have perfected that piece of choreography. You might not even developed any more as a performer because you've been doing the same piece over and over again. But it does work a different element. It works consistency and discipline, which is really the most important thing, because it's really easy to get, like you talked about around inspiration. It's really easy to get distracted, very
Absolutely.
much.
Absolutely. Yeah, very easy to get distracted.
Absolutely. And it comes down to, I like to use the word significance. I'm going to read something to you guys. Hold on. I think I have it here. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna have to find it.
While you're looking for that, I'm going to tell you why I was looking down. Your goal has to be larger than your fear. That was beautiful. That was perfect. And I'm posting that right as we speak, because that's a message all in itself. You know, and that's something that a lot of us lose sight of and sometimes forget, is that our goal needs to be larger than our fear. A lot of times we succumb to fear because we're afraid of reaching our goal.
That's right. And you will not achieve it until your character is ready for it.
Mm.
And that's why you take an artist and they go back to the albums, they go back to the old beats, they go back in time to remember how they once were, and then they reformat and they appreciate what they were in their early 20s or the late teens, and then they drop something when they're late 20s, early 30s. And like, oh, I've sat on this for a while. I just never had the experience to actually put it fully out because I never experienced it yet. I knew something was going to happen like this in my life. I was just preparing for it. I just couldn't finish the song at the time. And fear, right? There's an acronym for this, false evidence appearing real.
See, and that's different. That's different from what I've heard. I've heard face everything and run.
I mean, even I try to remix it to be face everything and rise,
Hmm.
you know, just to try and yeah, hold on to that fear.
You guys are right, but guess what you guys are doing? You guys are creating
Mm,
affirmations. That's why people pray in the morning. That's why people pray throughout the day, or they say student creeds, or they say mottos when they're part of a society or a community. Because what it does is it grounds them back. That their cause is a lot
mm.
larger than themselves. That's why you always see somebody who has the gift or have found the gift end up becoming philanthropists or humanitarians, because they've achieved everything else. So it's time for them to serve. But
Well,
you just said it
I
too earlier.
guess
It's like, you have to you have to get out of your own way too. And that's the part, right? Because that's a self-talk, as they would. And that comes back to
yes.
the other side of our conversation, which was yesterday was inspiration. That today is really about motivation. So how are you talking to yourself? How are you speaking
Mm.
to yourself? At what level do you want to be spoken to?
But also how to manage when that other voice is speaking inside of you, that doubt, that that weight that brings you
Yes.
back out of where you're supposed to be going,
Yes.
you know, and kind of furthers that negative talk, that doubt talk. That it's funny because I mean we've said it, we've kind of hit it on the head of where the root of it is at, like where it's a lot of times where it's based at, and that's in fear. It was funny because like I said that to Omega this morning. I was like, bruh, I fear that particular person who we were talking about in the moment. I was just like, and it wasn't even like I fear them like fear for my life. It's just like I fear their abilities because, I again am hooked to that same thread, that same trigger thread that feeds that same narrative of like I don't feel like I'll be as good enough as that person, or I'm just
Mm,
playing catch up to this experience in order to try and master, the this certain discipline or what have
yeah.
you. I said it feels like I'm constantly playing catch up in life. By the time I realize where, like by the time my eyes open to where I feel like I'm supposed to be, or where, where the universe is telling me to roll, I'm like, oh, if I would have seen this sooner, this would have I would be here by now. And like, and all I needed to do was just look just a little bit to the left. And
Yeah.
it feels like that minute and so frustrating because it's just like if I would have, then I would have. But then, like that goes back to the narrator inside, like that like whatever the narrative is that came along with that.
Gotcha.
In all that fear, you forget that there's two sides, right? And I distinctly remember me telling you, how do you know that they don't fear you, that they don't fear your ability? How do you know that you aren't that threat to them? So you very well could be that driving force that that they are using to create or become better because of you, you know. And also, I look at that and I say this: you are right where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there.
Hmm.
So it's not a, well, if I would have done this, then this would have happened, because you don't know if that really would have happened.
Right.
Because that could have done that, and then it could have went completely left, or could have been the complete opposite of what you wanted. You know what I mean? And I'll say this right now: your abilities are so amazing. Just think about this: if that person that you compare yourself to was in your same situation, do you think that they would have been able to rise to the occasion like you? Do you
They're
think
not
that
built
they
like
would have that? They're not built like you. And
remember,
that's the
you
difference.
only get gifts that are anointed to you. And that's the part about, you cannot compare yourself because yes, everybody's unique, even to the point of their fingerprint.
Yep.
That means that whatever you've been given is only for you.
Mm.
And that's the
Facts.
part of it. Like, Anthony and I were talking, when we had our conversation, when we were honing into spirituality, is like you have everything inside of you. You just have it trapped right now. So
Mm.
what you're dealing with is whatever's being trapped in you, but it's also, the manifestation of what you see. I think because you're probably a very visual person as well. So when you're a visual person, what ends up happening is you get influenced by that, and you kind of forget about your internal ideals and your gift, and the fact that it really comes from inside out. Because you already got to where you are right now. You haven't been let down already. You have not been let down. He's come to you 100% out of the time. You're batting 1,000 right now for whatever you've asked for, and don't rush through life. I'll tell you that from just my life. Never rush through life. That's what I was saying. Go back to that dot. You got to hone it back through. And the question is this: back to you, is like, what is your vice? At one point when I was living in the Bay, it was about finances. It was about stunting. But you know what? When you lose everything twice, everything, then what happens? So what happens if you gotta think about that, is what is your vice? Like, is it approval from others? Is it the competitive nature to be better than somebody else? Is it, you know, being the best father? You know what I mean? Like, you got to find out inside yourself, is like, if it was all said and done, what is the hook? What is your hook? That if everything was taken away from you, would you be able to, will you freeze? Will you fight? Or will you take flight?
I'm not just saying this just because it sounds good. I'm saying the real. I'll fight. And I'm fighting right now. 4 a.m. is my fight. If you guys catch my drift, 4 a.m. is my fight. That is my fight, and I'm showing it. My fear was school
Mm,
because I felt like I wasn't able to do it, and I feared it, and that's why I put it off for 10 years
yeah.
or over 10 years, right? But now I've found a groove and I've found the support to where I'm like, I can do this, you know? And it's just like you have to find the support. You have to find those that are going to push you and show you the support that you need and the encouragement that you need, and really be there when you need them in order to be successful at times. Because sometimes we get so wrapped up in our own fear within ourselves, we forget that there's those that can help us pull us out of that fear,
Awesome.
that can push that fear to the side so we can get through it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times it's like it's always just me, because society tells you you got to be a man, you got to do it by yourself. To be a man, you got to do this on your own. You got to be a man, you can't be crying. But to be a man, you got to do this, you got to do that. It's like, man, there's so much for a man to do. When can a man be a person?
And you got to realize everything was already paved before.
Mm-hmm.
One would call myself an innovator, but I'm not, because somebody already put the foundation before me, right? No, everything's already been done. Now it really comes down to, what are you going to do to make it your own? You got to think of it. You want to hear deep? This is deep. When you drive down the street and you look at buildings, you look at the street, everything is man-made, right? Everything is man-made around you. But everything that's built only comes from two pieces: trees and the soil, clay, cement, stone, fossil fuel. Even electricity needs generators with coal and fire to make it spin, to push electricity. So everything is man-made, but it all comes from earth.
From the basic elements. It takes the basic elements to create anything and everything. So what you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, so what you're saying is everything that's in front of us is a remix of something that's already been here.
That's right.
I feel like we've said that before.
Think about this. I mean, look at the iPhone. There used to be a thing called a Palm Pilot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we were touching Palm Pilots, with a SkyTel that would make a noise and give you a phone number. Then you'd have your BlackBerry, or what was the other one? The one that you could actually text on.
Sidekick.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or your
You
two
know what I
ways
mean?
before that.
Everything at the end, everything is an integration of each other.
Yeah.
Living a hybrid life. I like to call it hyper hybrid because it's very fast.
It's very true.
But
so let's circle back to what you were saying before about your vice.
Oh yeah.
What's your vice?
I was thinking about that. It's interesting because like I feel like it's just been a crave for attention. I feel like more than attention. I think it's fitting in.
To what?
Society. I've spent most of my I went to 12 different elementary schools in
Okay.
6 different grades. So we moved around a lot.
Okay.
I'm not even a military family. Like we just moved a lot. And I remember going from school to school. It's funny because I just said this earlier today, but like I remember going from school to school, and I would make friends with people, and like I would have to adapt really quick, and I would try to be part of the community, whatever's going on, because I wanted to feel like I was a part of something. And like my entire life I've kind of always felt like I wasn't a part of anything. Being a mixed kid, I was too light to truly be in the world of other Black kids at school. It's just the way society was. And then like I was too dark to be accepted by white people. And like I'm a mixture of a bunch of different things, and people usually look at me and they try to guess, or they just pinpoint one thing and then just label me. But like I to the core felt like it's never been, you know, like, oh yeah, you're definitely a part of this group, come, you know, come be with us, feel accepted. You know, each school I went to, it was like trying to re-earn that acceptance. And then with the
Mm.
invention of social media, the reason why I recoiled from it was because it was just school on a larger scale.
Yes.
I mean, basically that's what life is. Life is just high school, just older.
Oh,
And so I mean, just that constant trying to be accepted, trying to feel like I belong. Um,
but you know what? When you look back in retrospect, and the fact that you're able to travel, you're able to move, you're able to adapt, you're able to be a chameleon, you're able to meet families and kids that have endearment for you. You get to share your experiences indirectly to them
right, right,
as a mixed kid.
And the beautiful thing about that, to piggyback off what Carmichael just said, is your upbringing prepared you for your future.
That's right. You're already global. Imagine the kids, imagine the ones that are not global or don't have the look that you have. They cannot move the way you can move. I could drop you right now in Amsterdam right now, and I could throw you over in Tokyo. Just move right through.
You'll be all right. And that's just the thing. It's like where you see the fear or the apprehensiveness, we see the positives. We see the
Superpower.
benefits. That you're, yeah. It's like we could see that. You know what I mean? It's like, well, I had to move around a lot, so that means you know how to pack up and go.
Yes.
You know, I always had to find different people to instantly fit in and try to make sure that they accept me and they know me. That's why you're always a life of the party, and that's why you're comfortable with any situation in public or in private. On the outside, even though inside you're probably clawing at yourself and your skin is crawling and you're very uncomfortable, the people on the outside don't know the difference because you know how to adapt to any situation for any occasion. Yeah, you see what I did there.
I see
And
what you did there.
you know, like, and that's the thing. And then your look brings, think about this, and it's so weird to say this because this is kind of like a colorism thing. Your look brings comfort to some people,
Mhm.
Mm,
you know, because
Comfort
you're
them.
lighter skinned, you're okay. They're like, ah, oh, he's probably not that bad. Or they're too busy trying to figure out what you are to uh to be focused on being angry at who you are, you know. So it's like, well,
it's usually
maybe,
two faces, confusion, or
yeah. I mean, his hair says he's black, but his complexion says he's something else. I don't know yet, you know. So I mean, it's just like, I feel like you are simply amazing and you always want to stand out, which is why Powerline is one of your favorite characters, because of the song Stand Out Amongst the Crowd, even if you have to shout out loud. Because tonight is the only place you'll see I gotta stand out until you notice me.
Mm.
Everybody notices you when you walk into a room because you command attention.
I appreciate that. Oh, um, how does one go about detaching the negative connotation to that particular experience, set of skills, gifts, etc.?
Yeah. So first, you gotta forgive yourself. You gotta forgive yourself for feeling like that. Second is if you do want to sit back, it sounds like you have been to some extent analyzing, you know, and trying to understand your identity. That's perfectly fine. I presume you're somewhere in late 20s, early 30. Where do you sit?
29.
Okay. I remember being there. You know, I remember being a teen, being on tour very young. And then by the time I was in my 20s, I just went hyphy. Like I was just, it's like letting a kid out in the free world. You know, I'm just glad I never got into any serious trouble, you know. But when you hit 30, you get to this point in your life, especially, you know, I'm out of my 30s already. And it's one of those things that you learn how to find your identity as a man. And you hope you have the right mentors in your life to maintain your mindset because of the amount of influences that are happening. Because a lot of things, there's so many options being thrown at you. And then there are a lot of them are distractions. So you have to make sure you have the right people to tell you how to move and where to move because they're there to protect you. I don't know if I said this yesterday. It's like, protect, correct. It's important to make sure that, you move and you flow through this time of your life and really appreciate it and take your time and find your identity because there is things and questions that you have. And that means that you are getting deeper into your roots of yourself, which is perfectly fine. But remember, a lot of this is not your burdens. So you have to forgive yourself for it. A lot of the external things that you deal with aren't your vices. They're other people's preconceived notions and social injustices that have happened. So that's where I would say just, I did enjoy my 30s, but I had to find a lot. What I'm saying to you guys now is if I didn't experience my 30s, this conversation wouldn't have happened. And you have to go identify yourself because it's no longer your parents identifying you like they did the first 2 decades of your life or your
Right.
friend. In your 20s, it wasn't your boys, girlfriends, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Relationships or whatever. It's like that was your 20s. That was, it was pass go, collect $200 and keep it moving. That's all it was. Just cycling the boards. Now you're in your 30s and you're like, okay, I really got to apply my life now. Like, what does that really mean? So, like I said, forgive yourself first as you enter into your 30s.
Mm. Forgive yourself for your 20s
I mean,
and before.
don't take it with you,
Right.
because you know what, you get the opportunity now to mentor 20-year-olds. You get the opportunity to mentor teens. They wouldn't
Right.
have listened to you when you're in your 20s. You're too close
Mm.
in that
Mm.
mindset. Remember, there's like 16, 18. That's one shift. 18 to 21, that's another shift. 21 to 23, 23 to 25. There's like
Right.
little, and they're very small, like these 2-year gaps. But when you look back like a full decade, like wow,
Yeah.
like that a lot. There's a lot that happened in that decade.
See, and I speak about it in years of 5,
Yeah,
or generally like that, or I talk about like the main age points.
yeah.
I remember having this conversation with my daughter, and I think I even had this with you, Z, is who you are at 18 is not who you're going to be at 21. Who
No,
you are at 21 is not going to be you at 25. Who you are at
Right.
25 is not going to be you at 30. And if you are that exact same person,
you haven't grown.
you haven't grown, and that's the shame. That's the sad part.
Yeah,
You
take
know,
inventory. Always
yeah.
got to take inventory of yourself right now.
And I said that
Absolutely.
to lead in with how you're speaking about this, and my thought is, it's like that desire is natural because us as humans, that's what we want. We want to fit in. As humans, our basic nature, our human nature is to want to fit in and to be accepted and to be wanted, right? But the thing is this is who do you want to be accepted by? Who do you want to be wanted by? That's the real question.
All right, I want to read you something I wrote in one of the books I have written. Significance. Okay. We live in a world of preferences and people are seduced to make a quick decision. People create situations that should not be undone, which leads to self-inflicted consequences. Just be and sit still. Allow others to falter. Prime the opportunity and bring the situation to its peak state. Pass it back to the person who has faltered so they have the opportunity to self-reflect and learn how to practice patience.
Mm,
Let me
I
say it
love
one more
that.
time. Let me do it one more time.
Hell yeah. I feel like that deserves a retouch on.
I was chatting about this earlier with you guys. So we live in a world of preferences, and people are seduced to make a quick decision. People create situations that should not be undone, which leads to self-inflicted consequences. Just be and sit still. Allow others to falter. Prime the opportunity and bring the situation to its peak state. Pass it back to the person who has faltered so they have the opportunity to self-reflect and learn how to practice patience.
Oh,
Which
oh,
means that sometimes what you're asking for of acceptance is not your acceptance, it's somebody else's. But when you try to inject yourself into them, what ends up happening is you might break that relationship because it wasn't that time. You know what I'm saying? Don't force that situation.
right. Right.
Now, if the person falters because they can't accept you, bring yourself to another level, to peak state. And then when they meet you at that level, you bring them back in and you embrace them.
Mm,
That's what it means.
That was
mm,
pretty deep.
very deep. I,
That's the book I sent you in my PDF, bro.
Okay.
okay.
I'll
Okay.
send it to you guys.
All right. I'm just kind of marinating and reflecting on what we've been talking about. Just because, I mean, it goes with saying, I guess, that there's going to be times where you're going to need that refresher. I mean, we're almost at a year of doing the podcast. We have a few months, we're a few months away from that. And like, when we had first started it, when we first started, you know, video chatting and talking, like I said, was the conversation. So kind of the necessity of revisiting and reminding and reworking is going to be, it's going to be an important piece because I mean, like from then to now, I mean, it sounds like I'm working on the same problem, but it may be it's just in a different. I guess it's just in a different like part of the line that it's progressed to. So it's like, oh, cool. Like I'm no longer at this level, but it's still here. It's just now at this level. and
Yeah.
and to see like how I can continue to manage that along the way. Cause like you had mentioned of it's not about controlling, the situation or controlling the thing. It's about managing. That's I always say, like managing fear. Loving yourself is an amazing piece to that management of that fight or flight response. That
You gotta throw your thoughts away
yeah. Ooh,
because I guarantee you the same thoughts you're having right now is not going to be the same thoughts in 5 minutes.
right.
It's true.
Now
And
if
then
it's,
also those thoughts too will slow you down,
yep.
you know.
That's why you have to
And
take action, 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 action.
yeah, because like I said before, like I think about them in a fight aspect, right? And it's like you gotta train something so much to where it's automatic. No longer should you be questioning or planning or being like, okay, well, if he does a one, I gotta do this, that, and the other. It's like it's already too late. By the time you're thinking about that, they've already moved on.
That's right.
So it's like you're ahead of the game. So that's why you're constantly training, so you don't have to get you stay ready, so you don't have to get ready.
That's
You
right.
just have to fine tune things. Fine tuning is different from relearning,
That's right.
Right.
you know. And I
It's like,
feel like you have so many great qualities and attributes. You're just fine tuning, but you have the mindset of I need to relearn.
Mm. Mm.
yep, learning a new discipline is perfectly fine. Integrating
Yes,
that new discipline into your life is even better. You just got to find your way.
that
Right.
part.
Right. I mean, it's there's this duality to what we're talking about, and why I feel like it goes so well with our previous episode. Because we're talking about our gifts, we're talking about we were talking about the manifestation of said gifts, and like all along the way, what is at the core of 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 your life. Everything is basically of your own making. It's of your own mind. Your life, your world is of your own mind.
Imagine.
um exactly. So sitting in this weird duality, and like I'm working on trying to like build myself up, strengthen myself spiritually, cleanse myself of the hurt, the trauma, the pain, and the fear and everything, and try to recycle that into like positivity, affirmations, manifestation, etc. But like at the same time, I'm still going through what it is that like you experience of like the negative self-talk, the doubt, that fight or flight response that covers all of that, like the fight, flight,
Yes.
or freeze response that covers all of that. Like while at the same time I'm understanding that it's of my own making and of my own mind. It's because like these two things aren't mutually exclusive. You can still experience, you could still understand that your mind is working, and that like to working to create whatever it is you're thinking about, but it doesn't stop you from still having that negative self-talk and self-doubt. It's just kind of managing the two. And that's, I mean, I felt like that was really important, um, for today's conversation, just
It's
because.
okay to be weary. It's okay to be tired.
Yeah.
And sometimes, we're only human. So when you get tired, your mind will play tricks on you. You will doubt yourself because you're exhausted. It's sort of like I said yesterday, like if you got to go and just, 48 hours straight and then sleep your 56 hours, then do that. Whatever needs to get that job done.
See, and that's a very interesting thing you said because I got a solid 8 hours of sleep last night.
I never do. I never get a solid 8 hours of sleep. I it doesn't matter what time I fall asleep, I'm always waking up at the same time. And that's, I
No.
mean, part of my internal clock, part of biological necessities, whatever.
Now, and the reason why I say it is because remind you, this last 6 days before, I was getting 3 and 4 hours of sleep only. So eventually my body was like, we need to rest.
Mm.
And the only reason why I even woke up at the time that I did, because I had a jujitsu training session this morning and I forgot to set my alarm last night. So I would have missed it. The only reason why I woke up was because my dog made a loud noise, a consistently loud crunching noise. I was like, what in the world is that?
That was your wake up call.
That was my wake up call. That was literally my wake up call because my body had dove so deep into that rest because it is so desperately needed it. My
Yeah.
mind needed it. Not just my body, but my mind needed that turn off, you
Yeah.
know? But I said all that to say this is like sometimes your mind needs to be shut off so the body can recuperate. And that is with anything that we do. And especially when you're serious about your craft, you need to find some way to turn that mind off to let your body recuperate. And when the mind is constantly running, it's like an engine, right? Eventually it's going to need a tune up. Eventually it's going to need some oil. Eventually it's going to need some gas. Eventually it's going to need some type of maintenance because your check engine light is going to come on. That's that fear.
Mm.
That's that self doubt coming up. When that check engine light, that's that doubt. Then you got to figure out, well, what is it? Now you got to plug in and take it to a mechanic to figure out, well, what is it that's making the check engine light come on? You know,
It's a great analogy.
thanks, because my check engine light's still on.
I have a question for y'all. Another one. Along the same lines as the steps or ways to combat being, the first thing that you said of forgive yourself.
Mm.
Forgive yourself for feeling that way. Um, whether it's you're feeling negatively about feeling that way or just feeling that way in general. Um, what other steps would you offer for someone in that situation? Um, outside of, like, remind yourself that, you're good, loving yourself. Because I mean that those are important steps. But like outside of just forgiving yourself and loving yourself, what would you guys offer?
And
Um,
do your kids do chores?
yes.
Okay. Do they get rewarded for them?
Yes.
Do they get consequences if they don't do them?
Yes.
Okay. Is it something that is a checklist throughout the day that they do, or during the week?
During the week, yeah. For the
Okay.
most part, it's not like a physical checklist. They're like, oh, we got to do this today. It's like, oh, cool.
Now, I would say that's as basic as that.
Mm,
It's not the list of 5 things like make your bed and brush your teeth and, you know, clean up the table after, and put your dishes away. It's a little bit more, it's more responsibility for an adult, but it all starts with that. You got to get yourself in some modality so you can gauge discipline and consistency. But it doesn't have to be militant. A lot of the times when I do things to help around the house is I already got buds on and I'm listening to music, or I'm listening to praise, or I'm listening, to something motivational or inspirational. I try to change it up just so I'm not in that same mundane thing, but it's still the same habitual contribution to the family, no different than the kids. So you got to contribute to yourself. How are you going to feed yourself? You got to feed, you got to eat, you got to feed yourself. It doesn't come from the outside. Sometimes, I mean, ultimately, it's going to come from within you, because we're waiting for you to make a move. Because your move is your courage is our encouragement to know that we can take a step now. And that's what happens with teams sometimes, bro. Like sometimes that guy doesn't take the step and then they all fall together. But they were waiting for that one leader at that time because that's what was necessary. So we watch you. It's the same thing when I watched Omega. I had to watch him. I got to see how he moves, see how he carries himself, see if I can put him in situations. I've never put him in a compromising position, and that's just out of love. Could I have? Yeah. But that wasn't the purpose. Because I'm not there to test. I wasn't there. I was never been there to test his integrity. See, that's the difference between like boys and men. Growing up to be a man. You know what I mean? It's like you don't test a man's integrity. Because there's definitely gonna be repercussions. And that's what's gonna happen. They're gonna fight, they're gonna flight, they're gonna freeze. Because someone's gonna get the consequence, ultimately. And your conscience, you gotta live with that.
What is the nourishment that you are feeding yourself?
This wisdom, read things that you would not. I'd rather learn from somebody who is, here we go. I'm gonna throw my engineering hat on. There's a difference between data, information, knowledge, and wisdom. And you have to go through each of those steps. We live in a very data-driven life. People are tweeting, people are gramming everything. It's just data, it's just moving packets, just like electricity. Then when you read the information, you're like, oh, is this for me? Let me find out more about this. And then you're like, oh, this is interesting. I want to read, I want to get more knowledge about this. I want to learn a new discipline. And then what happens? You integrate that discipline into wisdom. That knowledge becomes your wisdom. And then now you've contributed. You have to know that there's a process on how information, or I should say, communication works. Because if you take a book, there's words become sentences and chapters become books, and the more books you read, the more wisdom you have. Never, ever, allow somebody to give you information unless you haven't read it yourself and learned it and extrapolate it for yourself. You can speak to them about their testimony. You can speak to them about their experience, but it's not going to be yours. We can all sit in the same place right now and have this conversation, but whatever is around us right now is a different perspective. Even though we're in the same medium at the same time, virtually looking at each other. What I'm feeling is a lot different because I'm in a different environment than you guys right now. That's knowledge. Now, what you
That
do
was
with
fire.
what you do with this is the wisdom.
I just wrote that down, by the way. I literally just wrote that down. I just created a new notes folder that just says Carmichael. And you've already given me 3 things to put in there. So
Turn
that
those
last one
quotes
was
into a
fire.
book.
I got them.
Right?
I got
There
them.
you
I'll
go.
send it to you.
That's amazing.
Read them once a day. It'd be like toilet reading, but it'll make you think about it throughout the day.
Absolutely. I
That's
mean,
what I look forward to.
you hit the nail on the head of like, you know, it's what you're feeding yourself. Like O say, you know, like what are you feeding yourself? I mean, even within my feelings today, I still kept to my newly adopted routine. You know, of like I still meditated this morning. I think I talked to Omega after I meditated. Or no, I know I talked to Omega. I think I talked to O before I meditated. And like I was just on the phone with him, just chatting about it and like, you know, going through the emotions, going through the feels, still feeling those same things that I had mentioned earlier, thinking of like those same thoughts and like really just trying and struggling and like, you know, just trying to manage it. And you know, but still integrated in my practices, my newly adopted practices of you know the kinds of things that I've been reading, the meditations that I've been doing, the tai chi that I've been, you know, putting apart. I took today off from drumming just because my arm hurt a little bit, and I was like, ooh, let's not overdo it, you know, or whatever. But like, you know, like just of still trying to keep to that. But you know, at the same because at the same, like as I said before, this whole process isn't about, it's not about like, you know, oh, you know, how do I just, you know, stuff this away, put it all away into this box and like never have to deal with it again. It's like, no, I pulled all this shit up to the surface. Now how the hell do I clear all this? You know, like,
Yeah.
One thing at a time.
That's it. I mean, you're on a cadence right now, and you're gonna have to, you know, if you lifted it all up, and if you feel it's garbage and trash, you don't have to pick what you like. But you know, you always know, man, somebody else's trash is somebody else's gift. It's our treasure. So just make sure you you don't give out what's most important, bro, because you don't know what you're throwing away and what you've lifted out of yourself. That's what I'm saying. It sounds like where you are right now is more around like this in between place between information and knowledge, because you still want to experience it and you need more experiences. And once you get there, then if you have a plethora, you know, a couple handfuls of these experiences, then you'll have some testimony and some wisdom to share. You know, it doesn't have to be all of it. It just has to be one piece. That's all you gotta do.
Yep.
Share
I
one.
feel like you're on the cusp. You're on the cusp of moving on to the next level.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why you're feeling all this. That's why all this is coming up for you right now. I mean, because before you never would have been like this. You wouldn't be thinking this. You wouldn't have this mindset because you're still developing the tools and the experiences to have this mindset. Because now you're on the transitional point to leveling up. You know, you're about to hit 30. Now I know this like 30. Your 30th birthday is gonna come. You're gonna celebrate. You're gonna be cool. But then you're gonna reflect on things, and then you're gonna be like, "Am I old or am I young? Did I do everything I said I was gonna do by this time, or not? Am I going to be successful?" You're gonna start questioning all these things, but they're gonna be grown man questions. They're gonna be your next level questions. So prepare to leave this fear at 29, because you're about to level up and take on your 30s and start thinking about things from a whole new perspective. Because what you feared at 29 is probably not what you're going to fear at 30. It's probably not even going to be on the same radar.
Yeah.
And I know some people are like, well, it's just another day. It's like, no, if your birthday is just another day, you wasted that day, because that is your time to reflect on the years before that prepared you for the day that you were born, to help you set your next steps for your future. I don't look at it like I'm getting older and I'm thinking negatively. I'm thankful for every year, because that's another year of experience. So you're gonna level up, bro. And this experience is gonna be amazing. Your 30s are gonna be a fun ride, and you're gonna enjoy every bit of it, the good and the bad. You're gonna grow from it. So what you were tripping off of earlier today, it's gonna be like water on a duck. It's just gonna roll right off.
That's
You know what I'm
right.
saying? It's not gonna be a trip, and create a vision board,
Yeah.
a mental vision board of what you want to be, where you want to be, what you want to be, where you want to be, and how you want to, and how you want to get there. And then have another board of, these are my steps to greatness. These are my steps to get what I want. And my vision board isn't a vision board. I have visions implanted everywhere in my house. And I'll say this right now, right? And you see me looking. I have 3 black belts on my wall. One's my daughter, one's mine, and one is a coral belt that I plan to get. But the coral belt is a placeholder for my jiu-jitsu black belt. So that's my vision. I see those 3. I have a picture hanging up right here of me and my wife. I'm in all black, she's in brown. And we're holding hands together to show that black and brown unity, that family unit. So when I lose sight of things, I look, that's my fight. I'm fighting for that. I have these little things everywhere. I have stuff that's about my daughter around. I have everything around, so I don't lose sight of my vision. What's my vision? My family, my health, and my martial arts, my everything is all around me. It's always engulfed, so I don't lose sight. And it's just about, how am I going to get there? What do I do to attain what I want? I just need to get a picture of a house in here.
Come to Texas.
You got to talk to the wife and convince her to do that.
Well said. Once again, I wasn't cutting you off. I was just saying, affirming you and saying.
Oh, sorry. Oh, well, thank you. I thought I was cutting you off, so I was sorry. All this respect.
Right.
I do want to say, because I feel like we focus so much on UZ, and I hope you don't feel uncomfortable. I just don't want you to feel like that.
No, I don't feel uncomfortable at all. I mean, this is kind of the space for it. I wanted to talk about it because it's part of what happens. Like what we said originally when we first started doing this is just like our therapy of being able to just talk to each other and be raw, be real. These are the conversations that we would be having if we were on tour right now.
Right.
Like we would be sitting in our hotel room after that long ass day of performances and just be like, bruh, hey, all right, so I've been going through this. I've been racking my brain because I've been trying and then we would dive into it and it probably at some point, hit some tears because I got that far today, of just once I hit that, once that realization that I had mentioned earlier in the episode, I hit that wall of ooh, it's attached to this fear, the fear of, not fitting in or being accepted or something like that, and then, whatever was attached to just came with the tears. And I was just like, oh, fuck. I mean, I know I'm good enough, but there's this other thing is telling me I'm not. How do I get out of this? But yeah.
Wow. So you took your soul through a laundromat.
I'm thinking about when I was your age, and Anthony knew me then. And I enjoy listening to you dream, because it's wonderful, because what you're doing is you're setting a new stage, not only for yourself, but for others, to be vulnerable and to know it's okay to dream and to continue that dream and to question your dream and to break through your dream and to challenge your dream and to take the risk of your dream and to have issues and know you have issues with yourself because of these dreams. But you got to realize everything that you're thinking is not, it's everything outside of you that has influenced you. It's nothing inside of you. That's why I keep telling you, that's why I told you, forgive yourself, because if I could speak to myself to where you are now, I would have said the same thing to myself. That's why I'm saying it to you.
Forgiveness.
I would never, have I passed opportunities? Of course I have. Have I let things go? Of course I have. But the ones that have taken it and moved on with it have been just as successful and allowed them to have their own families. And that makes me happy because they don't have to struggle, right? Even though I took the opportunity to move on and take another route. I just know that my peers are happy, they're safe, and they're okay. However, going back, that's what I would say to myself. And I just said it to you.
Powerful words. And
I mean, I guess, it really comes down to Anthony too, to revalidate, because you remember when I was his age. You remember I was still performing, transitioning and Shaolin Groove, and we were traveling, and this was something that no one even thought of. I mean, they thought about it, there was some function of it, martial arts and tricking and breaking and movement lifestyle was like that to some extent, but not in 05, the way it is, what 10 years later. I guess after 05 was ABDC, Quest Crew, Kickin', 2008, 2009, Killing Game, you know what I mean? And then it just became a whole nother genre. Can you speak about that, Omega? Just helping him revalidate what I just said about sharing with him, like, you may not know, but you still got to dream and move forward, because you're going to have to wait. You might have to wait 10 years, and you may never, as a pioneer, ever settle and make the financial means. But even though that's your gift, it doesn't have to be financial. It has to do with giving back to the culture. So anyway, go.
See, it's funny that you mention all that, because as you're talking about it, I was mentally going back to the very first Shaolin Group video that you put out with the entrance of the scene of the camera coming into your house with your glasses, with your white rack on your wrist, and your bracelets and your watch, your glasses, your t-shirt that's folded on your head.
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm saying all this is because I want to build a visual, right? I want you to see that, like his baggy shirt, his cargo shorts and Timbs. I want you to see that. And now look at him now. Does that look like the same person that I just described to you? No, that's the early 2000s. Then the times have changed. The maturity has set in. And like you said, when you lose everything twice, you don't cherish those things as much as you did before. You don't covet those things. Excuse me. And right now, like I said, that was his transition. I've seen his transition over the years. Mind you, when you said 2005, it just dawned on me. In 4 years, that'll be 20 years ago.
15 years ago, bro. 16 years. That's a kid. That's a
Yeah.
kid driving.
Literally. And
Yes.
that's tripping me out. It's almost been 20 years. Right? So I'm looking at this growth process, and how you drew that parallel was amazing. Because now to say I've seen Z for the last almost solid to say 10 years, right? And to see that, and that's why that validation is important. I get it. And that's why I'm here and willing to give it to you. It's like you're in that, like I said before, you're in that transition. You're on that, and you have a growth mindset, and when you have those moments of I can't or why don't I, let's just cut off the apostrophe and the T.
Mm-hmm.
I can, and when will I? Or even just say, I will. Changing our words to a more to have a more growth mindset, to have a more positive outlook on things, you know. And it's funny is because we teach this, but sometimes we don't even take our own lessons.
That's right.
So I'm sitting here like, and I mean, you told me, oh, you can do this, bro. I don't know why you're tripping. Like, it's all good. You're gonna be fine. When I was on tour trying to do homework while we're in the hotel room, I'm in the shower listening to a TED talk for my class. So when I get out of the shower and he's getting dressed, I'm writing my paper.
Wow.
And I get out and this dude is on the floor bawling, crying, talking about he connected so much with that with the TED talk, and we took that time to talk about it. And not only did this happen, but he helped me dive in deeper into that subject.
Right. And you scribed more.
And I scribed more because we were able to find that. And it's like these moments is all those pivotal times where even in that time of vulnerability that you had, you helped me grow.
That's real talk, bro.
So even when we feel like we're going through something hard and we don't know which way is up, like Carmichael said earlier, your courage is our encouragement. So you going through these things is encouraging those around you to do exactly like you say. I can do hard things. So if you have a mental block on posting videos for TikTok, just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it. Because it's better to say you did it, tried, and it didn't work than to say I never did it at all and I don't know why. And maybe I should have. Or the worst feeling that we've all felt is I had it right here and I didn't do it. And then you look and you see somebody else did it. And then you say, that should have been me, or that could have been me, or why wasn't it me? Yeah. Well, because you kept holding it and you didn't let it go.
That's right. I mean, that's part of Taoism. You gotta let it go, man.
Let it go.
Because
I believe in you.
Have so much as a creator, you have so much to give that you own nothing. Because you can always create more. Mm-hmm. That's a gift. Like,
right.
But it's like I said, going back and reflecting to where you are, I envy looking back. I want to feel that again. I want to feel what you're feeling because I loved it so much. I loved sort of the mass hysteria in my head of a creative and where I can go with it. It just where it gets diluted. Or one part of it is, are you willing to be a target?
Right. The target that comes along with that.
Correct, because it's a responsibility. And that's what you're nurturing right now. As with your character having these conversations are nurturing you so you have the ability to be a target so you don't waver and don't react and don't fight and don't run and flight and don't freeze, that you just let things be and let things be still. Because over time, people will appreciate it and they will catch up to you. It's not you, it's them. That's why you have to continue to give and let all the creative out of yourself. Your path may not be the direct face, but if you're contributing to the industry to move culture, bro, like directors, executive producers, utility, like that's longevity. Being the actor, the number one actor, 0.0001%, whatever that is, do you really, what I'm saying? Like, if you're really about the culture, it's contributing all the way around. Do the beautiful song with Snoop. You know what I mean? Do the Jay-Z track with the ad libs. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. He's gonna be relevant wherever he touches. Because he's gonna do? He's gonna develop talent. He's gonna produce. That's what we talked about yesterday. Either you're the producer, you're producing other people. Well, honestly, you guys do both. So harness it.
He's gonna do both.
That's it.
And
I'm pulling Omega along with me if he's down to go.
That's what we talk
Amen.
about inspiration right now, because you have the motivation. Like your experience of life is gonna be the motivation, right? But we're here to pull that gift out of you, to make sure that doesn't get trapped in you.
And that's gonna happen.
Yep.
Because and it's funny, is like I feel like I'm in my transition right now. I'm in a transition. I'm
Transformation.
narrowing down my
Transition, transformation.
transformation.
You're in
Yeah.
transformation.
I'm definitely in my transformation right now.
Yes.
I'm definitely in my transformation right now, and I feel it. And the reason why I'm saying this right now is because it's like I'm listening to Z, I'm listening to everything that we're talking about and everything, and it's making me reflect on myself. And I'm like, you're in a transformation right now.
You are.
You know, because the way I danced 2 years ago is not the way I'm dancing right now. But my dance has evolved. I may not have all the same power, all the same crazy tricks and everything else, but I'm learning a new foundation and I'm finding more love and joy in that. My dance is changing. My dance is evolving. My film thoughts is changing. If you notice, the things that I'm wanting to post up more is my martial arts. I'm going back to my roots again. And I'm putting up more of that. And that's why I'm sitting here like I'm thinking about this, and I am, like they say, I'm finding my man weight.
Yeah.
So this is my man weight right now. With all that have been said, I'm here for the fight. And I'm not afraid of the flight.
Bang.
Because I never freeze.
Hey, this was
As quoted by
All right, Wakanda forever.
King T'Challa. As quoted by King T'Challa, even though he froze.
I never freeze.
I love it.
I'm going to ask this question to you guys. Because life is.
This is going to be for our Discord.
If Chad Boseman was sick, was obviously had colon cancer during very strategic times in his life, at the last hurdles of movie making, which was his passion and his dream. How would you guys continue your legacy if you were ill? Would you speak about it, or would you continue your gift without anybody knowing?
Brother just gotta come in and drop a spicy ass question. For real.
This is what he was thinking about. What you're thinking about is what he was thinking about too, every night, every day on set. And it wasn't about movie making at the end, right? It's about social injustice. It was about his gift.
And leaving a legacy.
Leaving a legacy. You know, rest his soul in this form. But it was not discussed. So what do you honor? You honor the gift, or you honor the gossip?
That's a great time to end right there. That was a perfect time to end.
That is how we are ending that piece of the show. That is the question for the Discord.
All right. Well, thank you to our Patreon. Thank you to everybody in our Patreon that has been very supportive of our show. Man, keep the blessings coming. I'm looking forward to getting my sweater soon. So hopefully all of you guys that have been supporting us, you guys will be getting your gear as well. And if you guys would like to get a sweater too, all you got to do is up your donation on Patreon, and they will. And after 3 months, they'll send you out your prize, your gift, your love token, I should say, for showing us so much love. They're gonna throw it back to you and give you a love token. So just go through there and see what your account is. And yeah, it's because you know what, I put in my money back into my own business, and that's why I'm getting a sweater. So thank you guys, because it's not just coming to me for free. All right. Thank you to our, I don't even know if I even want to call him a special guest anymore. I almost want to call him, he's going to be our new, another bartender, because we got some really good bartenders that have been through already.
Hey,
from Tamia to now our coming soon to a television, to a theater, to a stage show near you. Kid Carmichael Simon, hopefully he'll be down with being another bartender because he's got so much knowledge, so many gems.
Mm.
We just want him to continue to bless. And mind you, there's one more thing I forgot to say. He is definitely an author.
Yes.
He's an author, and he is a published writer.
Thank
So
you.
if you guys get a moment, check out Black Book Magazine and see his stuff that he's been putting out. All right.
Perfect. And if you want to
We-
continue in this conversation outside of here, you could check us out on Twitter or Instagram at Have a Drink Cast, and make sure to use the hashtag HADcast. That way we can see anything you all post. I mean, you can even share some of the things that we were talking about today. I know there's going to be a lot of quotes from this episode that are just going to be golden gems. So feel free to grab those quotes and make sure you use the hashtag HADcast. That way, you got it from us.
Oh, wait, yo, I want to ask this. Can you, if you listen to this episode, write down one of the lines that stuck out to you and tag Hadcast and tag us in there on your social media so we can see it? I'm very interested. What line stuck out to you? Put that in your story and tag us on it so we can check it out.
Absolutely. All right. It's about that
All
time.
right. About that time.
All right, gentlemen, raise your glasses. Raise your glasses. Listeners at home, y'all as well. All right, kings, queens, and royals in between. I want to thank y'all for another successful episode of the Have a Drink podcast, where we invite y'all back to sit, think, have a drink. That's been us. Peace.
Peace.